So friends, this Friday and Shabbat is Rosh Chodesh Adar, the first day of the month of Adar. So let's begin our study, our journey today by sharing with you what the Mishnah of the Talmud says about this day. And that is as follows: the significance of this day when the temple stood. And that is as follows: on the first day of the month of Adar, I don't know why this is constantly freezing up. On the first day of the month of Adar, the court, the Beis Din, the high court in Jerusalem, would make an announcement with respect to two things. And that is the shkolim, the payment of shkolim, which we'll define in a moment, and kiloyim. Kiloyim means forbidden mixtures of seeds planted together. Let's address this very briefly, understand what this means. The Torah commands that each year, each individual give a half shekel, no less and no more. This half shekel went towards the purchase of all of the offerings, the public offerings, that were offered on behalf of the Jewish people throughout the year. Every day of the year, Shabbos and Yom Tov, the special offerings described, outlined in the Torah. In other words, so that each person had a share in it, each person was obligated to give each year a half shekel. Moreover, this half shekel mandatory contribution had to be in by the first day of the month of Nisan. Right? Nisan is the first month of the year. Adar, starting Friday and Shabbos, is the last month of the year. So we're all aware that although the year, in terms of since creation, the age of the universe, the year is Rosh Hashanah. We're all familiar with Rosh Hashanah being the head of the year. Rosh Hashanah, however, is not the first day of the first month of the year. It's in fact the seventh month. The months have their own independent order. And the first month of the Jewish year, there are 12, and the year turns every year at month number 7. That's when the year changes. But the months, there are 12 months. The Torah doesn't give them names. They're just called month 1, 2, and 3. So we are commanded that the month of Nisan, which is the month of Pesach, the month of the birth maybe someone has an answer solution to this. Why it keeps on freezing? I don't know. So the month of Nisan, which is the birth of the Jewish people, that should be designated as month number 1 of the Jewish calendar. All right? Let's back up again. So you had to have the half shekels in by the Rosh Chodesh Nisan in the temple, the special coffer, and from there, all the offerings for the year to come were purchased. It was an annual contribution, and the deadline was the 1st of Nisan. Hence, a month before already, the court would announce and remind people, time to get in your half shekel. Then, we are told, on the 15th day of the month of Adar, that's 2 weeks later, the court would set up literally tables throughout the entire country where people could bring their half shekel or bring a whole shekel, a larger denomination, and get change. They're called shulchanot. A shulchani is a money changer or exchanger, and it literally means a table because he'd sit by a table, or she would sit by a table. So these tables, these little booths, these little offices would be set up throughout the entire country. And then 5 days before Rosh Chodesh Nisan, on the 25th day of the month of Adar, so then if you hadn't already brought your half-shekel, you would come to the temple itself. They sat in the temple and you'd have to make the journey to Jerusalem. But you could give your half-shekel, either personally come to Jerusalem or the court-appointed messengers who set up shop throughout the country. All right, so what are we saying? We're saying that this Friday, Rosh Chodesh Adar, was when the announcement was announced by the Supreme Court, reminding everyone to get in their half-shekel. Therefore, in every synagogue around the world for thousands of years, including this year, God willing, a Torah is taken out in addition to the regular Torah. This week, we take out 3 Torahs. This rarely happens. 3 Torahs are taken out on one Shabbos. This is those rare occasions. Why? 1 Torah, the regular Torah portion, Mishpatim. The 2nd Torah, it's Rosh Chodesh. And the 3rd Torah for Parashas Shkolim, that we're going to read about the commandment to give the half-shekel. So 1 Torah for the regular Torah reading, 1 Torah for the first day of the month, which happens to coincide with the Shabbat this month. Doesn't always happen. And the 3rd Torah, because it's the Shabbos that coincides with the first day of Adar. In other years, we would read this on the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh. If Rosh Chodesh should be next week, then we'd read Parshas Shkolim also. How much more so if it's actually on Rosh Chodesh? 3 Torahs. Okay. That was one announcement. As I mentioned, another announcement. Kilayim. Kilayim means forbidden mixtures. There are all kinds of forbidden that the Torah prohibits us to, in many cases, even benefit from. Like, for example, milk or wool and linen. Forbidden to wear a garment, with certain exceptions, of wool and linen. Another category of forbidden mixtures, the Torah prohibits sowing seeds of different kinds of vegetables or fruit or grain of a different category next to each other. They can't be planted together. They must be separate. There's a unique prohibition about planting any kind of seed in a vineyard or near any vines. We've talked about this prohibition of forbidden mixtures. In general, the general idea behind it is not to blur identities, to respect individuality. In the words of Jonathan Sachs, of blessed memory, our eloquent and elegant spokesman who left us only a few months ago, tragically, he coined the phrase, the dignity of difference. Equality does not mean sameness. Sameness means to destroy uniqueness, and we're all unique. We're all different. Equality means respecting borders and boundaries, embracing their uniqueness, like a symphony. If every instrument would play the same note, and if every instrument would be the same instrument, no music is produced. The harmony, the music is produced. There are different instruments. Some are louder and some are softer, and they're very different. They all indispensably to the great symphony. So that's one of the meanings here of respecting, not grafting, not creating hybrids, not blurring boundaries, but respecting the natural order as God created the world. He wants this difference. And each one should contribute in their unique way. I don't know, digress now, but you see what I'm hinting to. Liberalism that wants to destroy all differences in the name of equality is actually the most destructive force possible. We've seen that in history. Communism, socialism, responsible for greater deaths, more deaths than any other evil to visit mankind. All in the name of equality. We're all the same. Equal value, all comrades. Wonderful idea, actually a poisonous idea and destructive. And as history has borne, and responsible for the greatest suffering humanity has ever experienced, all in the name of equality. So Torah said that's not the way to go. The way to go is to respect differences, protect borders. Again, the dignity of difference. This is not our topic this morning, so we're going to move on. I'm just giving you some insight into kilayim, the meaning behind this mysterious law that says that different plants, different growths should not be mixed together, but grow separately, respecting distance and borders. Now, here's the point. The point is things start to grow now. We're heading into spring. Is over. I'm just going to close this behind me. It's hard to see with the light. This is going to make it easier. So the court on Rosh Chodesh Adar is telling everybody, go into your field, and if there's any mixtures of seeds, uproot them, even if it fell by itself, even if you didn't plant them yourself, uproot them, separate them, see to it that they grow separately. So this announcement is made also on the same day, Rosh Chodesh Adar. In summary, the court would announce it's time to get in your half-shekels, and the court would announce anybody that all should check their gardens and their fields and make sure that there's no forbidden mixtures, because now you're going to see them growing and you can identify and see that they're different plants or trees, whatever the case may be. Clear? Let's go a little bit deeper. I want to share with you something quite fascinating. Now, you know that it's a custom nowadays to give the half-shekel. We give it to charity. In fact, we give 3 half-shekels. Why do we give 3 half-shekels? And when do we do it? The custom is on the day, on Erev Purim, Tainis Esther, on the day of the fast of Esther. So it's customary that everybody, men, women, and children, everyone gives 3 half-shekels to charity. Why 3? Because the first time we're commanded to give the half-shekel, the Torah mentions this is a gift, an elevated gift to God. Truma LaHashem. Torah mentions that word truma, which means elevated or gift or elevated gift. 3 times we customarily give 3 half-shekels. Now we're giving it this time because you just heard that it's on the 1st of Adar that when the temple stood, people had to give their half-shekel. Now, how do we give a half-shekel today? So there's many customs. It's all a custom. We simply give of the currency wherever the Jew happens to be living. Here in Canada, a $50, a half silver dollar. They don't exist anymore. Get them. Synagogues procure them, get them. People come to shul and they buy them for whatever amount they want to buy. And then they pick up the 3 half coins and put them back. Now the next person uses the same 3 coins. And individuals will do that on behalf of their wives or children if they can't do it directly. Best to do it yourself. So this is done on Erev Purim. Now you understand the connection to this time of year, because this is the time of year when the temple still literal half-shekel. So now we're giving our kind of symbolic half shekels to charity. But why Erev Purim? There's a special connection to Purim, and I want to read it to you. Plus a little bit of arithmetic for those of you that enjoy arithmetic, and some of you do. So you're going to enjoy this. Okay. The Megillah tells us that Haman, to get the signet ring of the king, in other words, to approve the annihilation of this fifth column. Haman didn't identify who they were, but he said that there's people spread throughout the realm and they're not loyal to you and they're a danger. They don't keep the king's laws. They should be eliminated. And the king gives the okay. So Haman first gives him a little gift just to encourage him. How much money does he give him? So the Megillah tells us he paid him 10,000 silver kikar. How much is that? How much is that nowadays? So I'll just give you the calculation. There are 3,000 shekel in a 3,000 shekel in a kikar. The quick math over here, without going into all the detail. This isn't the math I'm talking about. Just 3,000 shekel in a kikar. He gives 10,000 kikar. A shekel is about 16 grams of silver. So if you do the math, he, in contemporary silver value nowadays, he paid him about $200 million plus to convince him to allow Haman to carry out a pernicious and terrible plan, the first final solution to destroy the Jews. So that right there, you can see why we're giving our half shekels on Erev Purim. This is to counter Haman's bribery of 10,000 kikar is 30 million shekel. Here's the math that I want you to appreciate. So he's giving 10,000 silver kikar to destroy the Jews. Haman argued that what I'm going to give is going to counterbalance the half shekels that the Jews gave at Mount after receiving the Torah, when they got this commandment, which they all donated towards the giving of in the service of the Mishkan, the house of God, the sanctuary. What I'm going to give, 1,000 silver kikar, is going to counteract, neutralize all the half shekel Jewish people gave initially then in the desert. The question is, how does this work? So again, I'm going to go through this quickly. If you have a pen and you want to mark this down because it's fascinating, Jewish genius, that's what the Talmud says. The Talmud just says he gives 1,000 shekel. He says, I'm going to neutralize and negate the half shekels that the Jews gave. How do these numbers match up? So, interesting math. Then we'll get into some of the spiritual dimension. Now, how many half shekels? It says constantly freezing. How many half shekels does he give? So you do the math. Again, there's 3,000 shekel per kikar. Okay. And 3,000 shekel per kikar. He gives 10,000 kikar. That's 30 million shekel. So somehow 30 million shekel, that's the magic number that negates all the half shekels that they gave. How so? Here's the answer. Listen to the incredible mathematics. First fact you have to know. the shekel that was towards the Holy Temple was actually worth twice the regular currency. By consent, twice the regular currency. Therefore, Haman's, what the Jews actually gave was double the half shekels that Haman gave. So let's do the math. How many Jews were there that were giving? 600,000. So 600,000 giving double the half shekel of Haman, meaning to say in a shekel, is 600,000 shekel, right? We just arrived now that in a given year, how many shekels came in? Not 300,000 of the 600,000, regular half shekel. But the half shekel they gave was worth double what Haman gave. So bottom line is, every year, 600,000 people are giving 600,000 shekel. Now, the average, when was a person obligated to give it? 20. What's the average lifespan? 70. 70 is the average lifespan as we read in Tehillim. So 600,000 people are giving for 50 years, but turns out to be an entire shekel, because it's double Haman's. And how much is that? 30 million. 50 times 600,000 is 30 million. And that's exactly the number of shekels that Haman gave. He gave 10,000 kikar, his shekels, 3,000 shekel for one kikar, times 10,000 is 30 million. They gave, 600,000 gave over the span of 50 years, a total of exactly 30 million. So that's the bottom line, because it's double his value. So this is the incredible conclusion here. He gives, that's why he gave 10,000 shekel to counter, 10,000 kikar, silver kikar, to counter all of the 30 million shkolim that the Jews gave in his numbers throughout the lifespan from 20 to 50. And this is, he wants to neutralize it. Every year we give, before Purim, we give the half shekel, and we say, no, our half shekel neutralizes your bribery. It's not the other way around. Our mitzvah has rendered your bribery to be of no avail. History is, here we are, we're here and Haman is gone. Okay, I hope you followed that. Just by the way, another beautiful little calculation, completely different way of arriving at the 30 million is because if a person wants to donate his value to the temple, how much? It's a whole section in the Torah. So it's 50 shekel. Now, if all 600,000 people voluntarily gave their value to the temple, that's the 30 million that he gave, the 30 million shekel. That's another completely different way of arriving at this number of 30 million equaling the 10,000 silver kikar. Anyway, let's get to some spiritual layers here. Conclusion, practical conclusion, whether you follow the math or not. Here's the bottom line.
Rabbi New?
On this day,
I'm curious, because like today,
there's an announcement for the half shekel and an announcement to remove the forbidden growths, forbidden mixtures, separate them. What's the spiritual meaning behind this? The answer in brief is, Nisan is the month of redemption. As sages tell us, we were redeemed in the past in the month of Nisan. That's the Exodus. And we will be redeemed in current exile also in the month of Nisan. How do we merit redemption? We merit redemption symbolized by these two components, the half shekel and the separation of the different seeds. What's the idea spiritually? As we all know, the famous question, why are we giving a half shekel and not why would the Torah mandate a half shekel and not a whole shekel? It's not an exorbitant amount of money, and it's once a year. So why is it? The Torah is very emphatic. The rich shouldn't give more and the poor shouldn't give less. One of the basic messages is Jewish unity. A whole shekel is created when you give the other half. Similarly, the individual and God. We are incomplete alone. We are complete with God. More specifically, the Torah tells us that a whole shekel is 20 gera. Gera is a basic unit of currency. So a half shekel is 10. 10 gera. What are 10? 10, of course, are the 10 faculties of our soul. The 3 intellectual faculties and the 7 emotions. That equals 10. So I give my 10 faculties, you give yours, we become whole. That's as a people. Likewise with God. God manifests 10 attributes. Where we get our 10 attributes from, we are only whole in a connection with him. So the bottom line message of the half shekel is Jewish unity. That's how we will bring about redemption. This is the month before Nisan. The emphasis is unity. And this is underscored in Purim on over and over again. Haman first comes along to the people and he says, I'm sorry to Achashverosh, when they gave him this bribe, he said, there is one, Yeshnoi Am Echod. There's one people, Mefuzur Umefeirad Ben Amim, spread amongst all of your provinces. He ruled over 127 different countries. And Haman was, they have not adapted to any one of these countries. They remain this one unique people, despite the different cultures and languages of the places that they live, although they speak those languages, but they still retain an intrinsic connection to each other wherever they are. Indeed so, we are connected. And it's not enough to be connected on some deep instinctual level, but to live that oneness. That's the half shekel. Like all anti-Semites, Haman is right. They're all right. They all say you're different. They all say you want something from us. You want to control us. It's all a distortion of a very deep and valid truth. Yes, we do want something from you. Not your daughters and not your money. We want you to live godly lives. We're a light unto the nations. There's something different about the Jew. You're right. We can live 500 years in Poland or 900 years. And on a dime, we're foreigners and we're expelled. This has been going on in every country since time immemorial. We're not Poles and we're not French and we're not Canadians. We're not Australians. We live in Australia. We live in Canada. We live in Poland. We're Jews. And so they know that. So the secret to redemption is that. This difference. Again, the dignity of difference. Don't try and deny it. They're not going to buy it for a moment. You're right, we're different. And there's something about it that we want something universal, control the banks, the media, Hollywood. Millions of academics buy into this Jewish conspiracy theory. Why? Because it's a distortion of a truth. Yes, there's something global about the Jew. We want to bring Mashiach for the whole world. We want you to live a God moral life. We're not content to live our own little happy little lives and let the world go to hell. Jews just can't do that. We are driven to fix the world. You're right. You see that in our eyes. So we have to embrace that. So that's the half shekel. The half shekel is that the Jews are connected in this mysterious, intrinsic way. The other message of the half shekel is dollar. A big part of bringing about redemption is tzedakah, not just words, not just good feelings, but charity. And God knows We're a very philanthropic and charitable people, and always has been. This has been our hallmark. Tzedakah, the half shekel. What's the half shekel used for? To purchase the offerings. What does the offering mean? In Hebrew, korban. Korban means kiruv, draw near. To whom? To God, to our fellow human being. Closeness, oneness. Sacrifice. We need to give up our lives to what is true and right and what is eternal. That's what an offering is. It's a sacrifice. That's why it's called a sacrifice. It's a kind of life we need to live. Not, God forbid, to actually physically die, but to live a life of devotion, pushing the envelope, never being satisfied, never being comfortable. It isn't about being happy. We're allergic to that word. In the name of happiness, this makes me feel happy. Indescribable abuse is being upon innocent victims. No, it isn't about being happy, God forbid. It's about being. It's about doing what you have to do. It's about contributing. It's about making a difference. That ought to make you happy. That's true. But the goal isn't happiness. The goal is service. We don't wish each other a happy new year. We wish each other a good new year. Shana Tovah. What's good? A year of service. A year that's going to fix the world and make a difference. So all of this is conveyed in the half shekel, which is the month before Nisan, which is symbolic of redemption. It's all the means by which to get to redemption. And then there's the second component. The second component is removal of the seeds that are mixed together. Now again, earlier we actually explained this already. Unity means respecting difference. There's Jew, there's non-Jew, there's men, there's women, there's animals, there's plants. There's people of different personas and different talents and abilities. No one should be awarded something just because someone else has achieved it. You achieve what you need to achieve. You don't have to achieve what that person achieved. He has that talent. That's what he has to do. You got a different talent. Use your talent. Whatever talent you have, use it fully. That's all God says. You're all equally precious to me, but you all have a different contribution. So separate. Let everything grow, respected, with its own boundary, its own space, its own turf. It's balance. You see the balance? We're all giving the half shekel. We're all giving the same amount. But that we should not make the error that means every sameness, not sameness. You're all equally valuable, but you all have a different contribution. That's the balance of the kilayim. Mixtures. They're good separately. They become forbidden when they're mixed. We create a bastardization of life. That's when it becomes forbidden. Separately, wonderful. Life. That's the whole point of it all. There are other layers to this as well. Now an entirely new layer. But it's kind of similar. In our own, as individuals, we have to know that there's a time for everything. Not to blow the boundaries. There's a time to cry, there's a time to laugh. There's a time for joy, there's a time for mourning. There's a time for chesed, tenderness. There's a time for strictness. A time to compromise, and a time for war. And God knows no one should make the decision on their own. This has to be guided by Torah. But there is the appropriateness of all of these different expressions of the human condition. They all have their place at the right space and at the right time. And it's easy to lose that. And you're carried away with I have a certain personality that's bent in a certain way. That's the only thing I do. I'm a warrior, I only fight. Tender, somebody else. Or someone who's very giving by nature, just giving, chesed. Gevurah doesn't come easily, let somebody else do the gevurah. Each one of us, to whatever degree, not to the same degree, must embrace all these very different contributions and paths in the service of God, like our holidays. There's tears, there's mourning, there's Shiva, Tisha B'Av, and there's celebration. And each has its place. And when each one has its place, it's useful and constructive. That's also another layer to the mitzvah to separate the plants, the growths, the seeds, as it applies to the individual. To know what's appropriate when. Sometimes stern, sometimes very tender. Sometimes compromise, sometimes do not compromise. And for that, guidance. Otherwise, we can make a terrible mistake or terrible mistakes. So these are the two components. How do we achieve? How do we achieve redemption? How do we go into Purim? How do we go into, more importantly, Purim is that leads into Passover, which is rebirth, not just of the past, but a future rebirth, the final redemption. These two powerful messages of the half-shekel on the one hand, and the separation of the seeds on the other, both announced on Rosh Chodesh Adar, which is this Friday and this Shabbos. It's 2 days Rosh Chodesh. Let's conclude by mentioning, as we're all aware, our sages say when the month of Adar comes, we should increase in joy. It's a very auspicious time for the Jewish people collectively and individually, so much so that if a person has a court case and he can determine when it should be held, choose this month. If there's a medical procedure that has to happen and it's elective, you choose, if possible, the month of Adar. It's a month where boundaries are broken, a month of transformation, a month of where our mazel, which means doesn't mean luck, it really means our source is dominant, and it's a month of incredible blessing and celebration and joy. So may it be for us in our personal lives, whatever needs to be transformed. Things looked so dark. Beginning of the story of Purim couldn't have been worse. Final solution. One day, everybody annihilated. It all turned around so dramatically, incredibly. So that's the blessing that we are all granted to be able to experience, God willing, in our own lives. Thank you all for joining and for listening. And you are welcome to unmute yourself and say hello.
Thank you. Thanks, Rabbi.
Tomorrow
I had a
night,
question.
for those who
Rabbi
joined,
Neil.
is the Journey of the Soul. And a number of you did. It's not too late if you haven't, I don't think. You can still do it online. You'll get the book later. See you then, 7:30 Wednesday night.
Oh, Wednesday night.
Yep, today's Tuesday. Tomorrow night, 7:30.
When can we get the book,
Have
Rabbi?
a wonderful day and a wonderful week.
I don't think you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. I don't think you.
Thank you. Excellent.
Bye-bye. I'm going
Thank
to hang up. Okay, we're going? Bye.
Yeah.